That's fine. Well, welcome everyone. I'm Ron Gerber, the head of Angelbeat. It's so excited that Rachel Dines, the head of product marketing at the CloudHealth business unit within VMware, has graciously agreed to speak with me. CloudHealth is absolutely booming. I see this when I talk to IT professionals around the country. Maybe she can share her insights. What I know people tell me is that there is a tremendous demand for understanding how to manage the complexity and cost of the cloud. And now as organizations are a little bit concerned about putting their eggs all in one basket, 5-6 years ago, it was okay to have the bulk of their cloud at AWS, which is great. And many organizations still do that. But now we see a lot of organizations actively using Azure, and Google, and this is all public knowledge, is spending billions with a capital B on acquiring complementary business units, on hiring staff. And what I've seen, and maybe you can comment on this, Rachel, is a growing interest in multi-cloud, is an increase in the complexity of managing your cloud, which is why a couple of years ago, the VMware business unit within Dell acquired CloudHealth. And maybe you could touch on your own experiences in this broader strategic issue.
Yeah, absolutely. Thanks, Ron. It's good to be here. Thank you for having me. I would 100% agree with everything you just said. So we definitely have reached kind of an inflection point in the past year and a half or so, where more and more of our customers are going multi-cloud. I've been with CloudHealth now for almost 5 years. Before that, I was working in more in like the cloud storage side at NetApp and at Riverbed. And I've seen this switch where people were primarily single cloud, and then I'd say within the past 18 months, the majority are now multi-cloud. And it's, a mix of AWS, Azure, GCP, even Oracle is actually gaining a lot of momentum, yep. which is surprise to me, but it's very interesting. And the reasons that they do this is some of it is, not wanting all their eggs in one basket, like you noted, but a lot of it is just kind of accidental multi-cloud. It happens but through acquisition or happenstance, or even just giving developers the freedom to use whatever cloud they think is the best cloud. I see some of our customers doing that, but the downside to having a lot of different clouds is, you hinted at this before, incredibly increased complexity. And then really finding it, a lot of organizations a lot of our customers that I work with just find it impossible to manage their cloud environments across multiple clouds, multiple teams, multiple departments, multiple countries, without a third-party solution.
So one of the buzzwords that people have mentioned at Angelbeat probably for the last 20 years is organizations offering a single pane of glass, that critically important visibility into increasingly complicated either on-prem networks or WANs or cloud. Is that one of the key drivers why CloudHealth is growing so fast?
It is one of the key reasons that a lot of organizations come to us, at least initially. Visibility, it seems like such a table stakes thing. Like, why can't I have visibility into what's going on in my clouds? But it's actually incredibly complicated. It's incredibly difficult to do. And then we not only take that visibility, but we can also pull in business constructs and business concepts as well, which is really key. So it's one thing to be able to see like, okay, I've got 5,000 EC2 instances and 300 Azure VMs, but what's running on all of those? What business systems is that supporting? Like, what is that driving in terms of revenue? And really relating it back to, what does this mean in my business context? That's the really, really critical part. And a lot of our customers initially come to us with just a big problem with visibility, and then they kind of move on to bigger and meatier topics as well.
I would think the Amazons, the Googles, the Microsofts of the world, their approach seems to be, we have the most incredibly powerful technology, the right platform. And of course, they must have some basic visibility, some modern tools that they offer. But my sense is, and I wonder if this is another reason why CloudHealth is so successful, is that it's just not the main business of Amazon or Google or Microsoft. They're not in the visibility business. They know they need to provide those tools, but it's not in their DNA. Their DNA is, how do you provide the most secure serverless infrastructure? How do you build the greatest AI platforms? Is that another reason why CloudHealth continues to not only exist, but thrive in this environment?
Yeah, it is. You absolutely hit the nail on the head. I think when you talked about the kind of the core competency and focus area of the cloud providers. So, of course, there's great native tools out there for, visibility and optimization across AWS, Azure, GCP, and our customers use them as well. And our goal is never to try and go head to head with these solutions. We want to kind of complement, extend, build on top of them, and take customers to the next level beyond it. And there's a couple of reasons why a lot of time when I talk to customers, they're not going to rely on native tools alone. I mean, one is they need that cross-cloud view, right? If they're going multi-cloud, then they need to be able to say, okay, I need to see AWS, Azure, GCP, Oracle, all of it together. So that's one. Two is they really need a trusted third party to give them recommendations and optimization recommendations that, we don't have a vested interest in which cloud they use. All we want to help our customers do is do the right thing for their business. And so we can be that kind of neutral third-party advisor. But the third piece is an interesting one that you might not think about, is sort of I like to call it a democratization of cloud management. I think the more people in your organization that have their hands on, cloud management tools for visibility, optimization, security, the better governed and organized you're going to be. If you're using the native tools, like, you're going to have to get a finance person logins to your AWS console and try and teach them to use Cost Explorer. Like, that's just not what they're comfortable with. So I find in a lot of cases, it's, kind of nice to have that additional layer of abstraction for the people that aren't everyday users of a public cloud.
So it's funny, like one of our live Angelbeat shows just before the pandemic hit, someone was talking to me about why they loved using CloudHealth, because it boiled down to shadow IT. So if you look at this, all the organizations are trying to be cloud friendly. They're encouraging their developers to spin up new VMs and whatnot. And it's not really in any of their DNA or interest to say, well, you don't need to do that because you've just blown out your budget. The developers aren't really attuned to the cost of running these simulations. And then, oftentimes, at least what I heard, was that they suddenly get this big bill and wonder, well, how did this happen? They didn't authorize it. And so that's what one of the cloud architects said, Fortune 500 company said, that's why they loved using CloudHealth, is to give them more control over shadow IT so they can get, he almost called it an early warning signal if there is some of these shadow IT projects that not only have cost implications, they also have perhaps compliance implications. You can think of someone, let's say at a major insurance or hospital, out of the best of intentions, suddenly spinning up VMs, maybe putting patient records in the cloud without the appropriate patient security or HIPAA compliance. And I wonder if that comes up as well, to provide that granular control to make sure that there's not unexpected compliance vulnerabilities or cost expenditures.
Yeah, it absolutely does. I mean, the beauty of the cloud is the same thing that is the most difficult thing about the cloud, is that it's like I said earlier, democratized. Like, anyone can go, get an account, swipe a credit card, and start using it, which is what makes it so powerful, right? It enables speed and agility and innovation, and that's why we all love it. But that, of course, there's the dark side of that, which is, developers running off and not either intentionally or unintentionally breaking the rules. So a lot of the times when we have customers coming to us, it's because they've had like a wake-up call, right? And usually it's a wake-up call of like, why was our cloud bill 5 times bigger this month? I have no idea. Or it's a wake-up call of, we just had a security breach and we did not even see this coming. Those are kind of like the two usually angles that people often come to us and say, I need this to never happen again. I need you to, at the very least, tell me that this has happened or going to happen, predict that it's going to happen. And then the more mature organizations even get to the point where they say, can you automate this for me? Like, I don't want to actually go in and fix this myself. I trust you, CloudHealth, to, you detect a problem, you fix it for me, and then tell me about it later, because things need to happen so quickly, especially in the security world. You need to have a machine reacting to it rather than a person.
Interesting. As I mentioned, you're part of VMware, which is part of the broader Dell Technologies organizations. Could you comment on how that works organizationally, some of the pros, the benefits you get from understanding what goes on amongst these technology giants, while at the same time, you're able to operate autonomously without some of the corporate constraints?
Yeah, so CloudHealth was acquired by VMware just about 2 years ago, and we've had really a great freedom to continue operating as a pretty independent group, as a pretty independent business unit, and run our business and our product and our solutions very similar to how we had previously, just at a much greater scale. I mean, we've grown a massive amount with help from VMware. So it's been a little bit, it sounds a little cliche, but it has been a bit of the best of both worlds, because we still have that small company feel and agility and speed, but we have the backing and stability of, VMware, a multi-billion-dollar company. And VMware has amazing relationships with all of the cloud giants. And that's why it's actually been a really good place for us to be in a multi-cloud organization, really focused on multi-cloud, because VMware has partnerships with, AWS, with Azure, with Google, with Oracle. So it also puts us in a really good position with the hyperscalers, who are really our lifeblood. And we've had a lot of, as we've grown, we've been able to kind of take some of our SaaS and public cloud DNA and inject it into the VMware world as well, which has been fun and kind of cross mixing there. So overall, it's been great. And I mean, yeah, we're now more than 10,000 customers around the world, managing $12 billion of public cloud spend. It's hard to imagine us getting there without help from VMware. So it's been good.
Sure. So when you look ahead to 2021, given COVID, exponential growth in the cloud, I dare say none of the people I know would ever recommend building out a new data center anymore. It's just not happening. People joke that there were basically 5 years of digital transformation taking place in 5 months, or if you really want, almost 5 weeks, at the start of it. So when you look ahead to 2021 and beyond, what are some of the main strategic initiatives there at CloudHealth?
I think COVID has really, the pandemic has really accelerated cloud, both migration and transformation. So a lot of organizations that had, initiatives to move to the cloud are moving a lot faster. Andy Jassy said in his reInvent keynote that he thinks that we'll have looked back at the history of cloud computing and see how much faster it accelerated during COVID. And we see that in our customers too. So it's not only moving to the cloud, but also transforming within the cloud. And so that move to containers and serverless and, away from traditional VM kind of architectures is also accelerating as well. So I think a big focus for us is going to be, how are we helping our customers on this journey? The Cloud Center of Excellence is something that we talk about a lot, and the different functions of the CCOE, Cloud Financial Management, Cloud Operations and Governance, and Cloud Security and Compliance. How do we help our customers kind of evolve and transform those CCOEs to adapt to the new world that we're entering, which is much more cloud first, much more cloud oriented, increasingly container based, increasingly looking for opportunities to use microservices and serverless. And how does that change the dynamic? I think the big thing is all of this, unfortunately, adds more complexity, bringing it back to what we talked about at the beginning.
Which is why you're booming.
Which is part of why we're booming. Yeah, it's a good problem to have. It's a good problem to have. And it's an exciting place to be. I think, I get to work with some of the largest public cloud consumers in the world. I get to see how they run their CCOEs and, advise them, and they advise us as well. And so it's a very privileged place to be.
So one of the things, as we conclude this very insightful commentary, I think it's imperative to note that there are organizations who are smaller, who may not have a Fortune 100 corporate staff who just strategize about cloud. So, the good thing when you work with the cloud health organization is they can, people like Rachel and her team and local salespeople have access to, again, what the major hyperscale cloud providers are doing, what VMware is doing. And I think beyond offering products to ensure compliance and manage cost, you can offer insights on what so if you're a small regional corporation, maybe you're just using AWS or maybe you're just using Azure, you can still offer very incredibly important strategic, tactical, organizational insights of what to do. And maybe one final thought, maybe you can also comment that even if you're not multi-cloud, maybe you're just struggling with hybrid cloud and dealing with stuff on-prem versus the cloud, what are some of the compelling drivers if you still have most of your activities on one of the public cloud providers, why CloudHealth is still very important and beneficial to your organization.
Yeah, absolutely. So even if you are just in one cloud or, in the one cloud plus the data center, which I would guess about a little less than half, slightly less than half of our customers are still single cloud. There's kind of three big areas of capabilities that we bring. I mean, one is that visibility oriented by your lines of business and your teams and your groups. Now, this is something that we can do beyond tagging. I know, especially for a lot of, commercial and mid-sized accounts, tagging is a really big challenge. Sorry, my dog is barking. I know for a lot of commercial and mid-sized accounts, tagging is a really big problem. And so fortunately, CloudHealth doesn't rely on tags in order to give these dynamic business groupings. So the visibility aligned to your business is one key. The other one is,
by the way, so I'm not sure this will get cut out, but everyone has dogs. Everyone's got their kids walking in. It's even like, who was one of the late night talk shows where his son or daughter was like the fixture? So instead of who is it? Normally one of the talk show hosts have a sidekick who introduces them, and one of them said, "Well, I'm just going to have my kid do that until we get out of court." So I think this is the world we all live in.
It's true. I've been trained to pause for edit points when my dog barks. So she has a lot of opinions about tagging, really. And she's been my dog. Yeah, she's been listening to me talk about tagging and tag structures for 5+ years now. She's got her own thoughts. So yeah, that's definitely one area. And the other one too is just finding ways to reduce spend, whether it's using savings plans, reserved instances, right sizing. So a lot of really, really rich features in there. And then staying on top of security risks. Once again, even if it's single cloud, especially if you're a small organization, you probably don't have that full-time person to go build all these reports and build all these policies yourself. You need a tool that's kind of there and can just help make your life easier, save time.
Let me ask you one other question. So if I'm a big company, but not GM or Boeing or something like that, and I want to move to the cloud, and I'm sort of wondering, well, forgetting about like the technical architecture where, there's Dell consultants, there's AWS or Azure or GCP consultants. Can you use the CloudHealth model not so much to monitor existing costs, but maybe to create a forecast or projection as to what your cost structure will look like once you move to the cloud, to help organizations get the technical and financial justification behind that migration? Is that one of the reports that you can generate?
It is, yeah. So we have the migration assessment report, which looks at your existing on-premises environment, whether it's VMware or bare metal. It shows you how much that's costing you, right? Using benchmarks, or you can even overwrite with your own data. And then it can show you how much it would cost to run that exact same application in AWS, Azure, or GCP. And it's a very neat little capability. I think not enough people know about that. It does a right size analysis. So like a lot of people will leave quite a bit of headroom on their on-premises environments, either because they have to or just because it happened that way. But this will say, okay, let's take out all of that extra headroom, slim it down to what you only are actually consuming, and then show you how much it would cost in the public cloud. So it's a great planning technique.
Well, I'm excited about 2021, having CloudHealth executives like Rachel and her team speak at our events. My own personal projection is the cloud is booming. And I also think, and you alluded to this in containerization, it's talked about at reInvent taking place literally as we speak today. But what we see at Angelbeat happening is the fact that organizations and users have embraced containers because they wanted to maintain control of their applications. They didn't want to be stuck in vendor lock-in. So if I move my database or an app to AWS, if they get a little greedy or the price isn't right or whatever the case may be, or for whatever strategic or technical they want to move to to GCP, to IBM, to whatever the case may be, containerization is making it a lot easier to support a multi-cloud environment because it's pretty much all based on Kubernetes. And so having a Kubernetes container on AWS, you can just, it's almost as simple as hitting a button to move it then to Azure. And I think what we're seeing is a lot more of that control being maintained by the end user. They want to adopt, as you alluded to at the very beginning, the public cloud so they can control it, they can keep everyone honest, and they're no longer locked in. I mean, there are obviously some examples. You're not going to be able to run Microsoft 365 on AWS or GCP and things like that. But aside from those outliers, many of the things are going to be containerized. And that's how you're going to then have one of the other cloud providers put in a much cheaper price to get it. I don't think the business is going to get commoditized, but it is going to provide incentives or at least greater options to have multi-cloud environments because they have reduced the barriers to moving applications with Kubernetes as the widely acknowledged standard. And I think that's why CloudHealth, in my own humble opinion, is going to continue to be in high demand because there is just going to be more and more interest. There's going to be more CFOs and CIOs say, I love this vendor, but I want to, just keep them honest. And plus they want to have ties with all the big three because there's different insights that they glean and they want to see how different things are done. So I, for one, am excited to feature CloudHealth at many of our future programs. We hope that we're going to be able to get back in doing live events, hopefully by the fall 2021, definitely by the 2022. But it's all dependent on vaccine adoption, vaccine distribution. I always tell people, please wear masks, socially distance. We're just about at the finish line. And in my own biased world, everyone needs to do that because we need this to be the last surge so we can all get back on the road and have people hear directly from Rachel or her team in person. Is there anything else you want to add, Rachel? We so much appreciate your time.
No, this has been a great conversation. I've really enjoyed it. And thank you for having me on. I hope we can do this again.
Absolutely. And hopefully we can do it in person. Or maybe, yes. And maybe, I'll bring my dog. I'll come up to Boston. We'll take a little trip. They'll have a little, doggy play date in your front yard and things like that.
Sounds perfect.
All right. All right. Sounds good. I'm going to leave now, but thank you very much and enjoy your holidays and stay safe.
Thanks. You too.